Another lovely morning, and what a day we had yesterday. The session's just getting better and better for both Stuart and I. It all started about 5 o'clock in the morning when Stuart had a lovely mirror of 22.5 pounds. Fantastic scale pattern running down the lateral line of the fish. Absolutely cracking fish. Then in a short space of time he took another 2 fish. One of the original commons at 26.5 pound. This is a personal best common for Stuart. This is actually a fish that I caught 3 years ago at 27.5 pound. We've got a little bit of amateur video footage of it.
Got that on video. What?
Nice small.
Yep.
But the icing on the cake for Stuart came only 5 minutes later with a fish that he's wanted to catch for several years. The orange one. One of the biggest fish in the lake, 33.5 pound. Fish was a little bit tatty, he's a very old fish, but Stuart was over the moon to catch him.
That's awesome hauling.
The wind was picking up hard northeasterly, and it was pushing the fish from my left to my right, out in front of Stuart. I wondered if I was going to get any more action at all, as the fish were definitely coming past in big numbers, and no matter how much bait I put out, I couldn't hold them. Then about 11 o'clock in the morning, an absolutely flying take. This fish fought one of the hardest fish that I've ever had. Took me over the top of a bar that was only about 1.5 foot of water, thrashing around on top with its tail coming out. We really thought it was a big one, and it was. It was a fish that I'd always wanted to catch. I'd seen it a couple of times on the bank. It's about the only big linear in the lake, and it came out at 30 pounds, 12 ounces. Really pleased with that fish. As you can see, it's absolutely fantastic condition. Very, very long, a lean, mean fighting machine.
£30.12.
Oh, you little gib. Wanted to catch you for a long time, your mother. Two sides of this one then, because he's linear on one side and double linear on the other. Yes.
I followed this fish up an hour or so later with a 25.5 pound common. I was amazed at the number of 20 pound commons that we've been getting. The lake's known for its 20 commons, but to catch this many in a single session is absolutely unbelievable. I don't know about autumn hauling. This was turning out to be a session more like trawling. Half an hour later, and the fish showing in my half of the lake were few and far between. Out in front of Stuart, they were leaping all over the place. Then, out of the blue, the rod's away again. Another nice mirror, 26 pound.
He's not that big at all, is
The top of the tail of this fish was missing. probably caused by an accident somewhere along the line. Well, that was it for me. I couldn't see any fish at all in the swim. They were definitely down in front of Stuart though. Fish leaping and jumping and rolling over, all over his bait. He'd baited up with a big bed of hemp, laced with boilies, and they were there and having it. 6 o'clock in the evening, screamer again, and another 20-pound common. 22.5 this one. Another perfect fish. What can you say? Most of the fish we've been catching absolutely immaculate. And what an incredible catch. Let's just hope it doesn't stop here. You never know with these fish on the big lakes. They can move out as quickly as they moved in. Stuart did have one more take. Unfortunately, the hook pulled. It felt like a very big fish. He was gutted, but he'd had a good day. Well, yesterday was another eventful day for Stuart. As I told you, the fish had moved across with the wind. They continued crashing there all through the night. And in the early hours of the morning, he had another fantastic fish, 33-pound too. It was a known fish. It was a fish called black spot. It's been around about that 33-pound for the last few years. Put up a tremendous fight, this fish. Actually took Stuart right across the lake down in front of me, and he ended up playing the fish from my swim and landing it down in front of me. Well, it looked as though I was going to be really struggling. Certainly weren't any big fish out in front of me. And then later on in the morning, I noticed a couple of small fish moving close to one of the islands. Presented a very small pop-up to these fish, and ended up with a couple of them at 15.5 common. And then later on in the afternoon, I had another one at 11.75. That was a mirror. I did hook a better fish later in the day, but unfortunately the hook pulled. Still, that's life on these big gravel pits. You expect to lose a few. Now, I thought today I'd show you some of the rigs that I've been using during this trip. This is the rig I've caught the majority of my fish on. It's a pop-up version of the swimmer rig. I've tied it onto 25-pound Christ and Silk worm. The counterbalance is made by pushing a small piece of lead wire into some silicone tube. This then can be adjusted to slide up and down the line to alter the height that you fish the pop-up off the bottom. Size 6 Drennan Super Specialist, and a 1/4 inch loop pulled through the eye of the hook. The pop-up is then tied on using a sliding slip knot with dental floss. I'll show you how I tie the boilie on. Right, take the dental floss, make a large loop, then a small loop, tuck one end through twice, and tighten the small loop down onto the line. Then just simply slide the knot down onto the boilie and tighten it up. And finish it off just with an overhand knot. This bait can now be tied onto the small loop that you've pulled through the eye of the hook, thus completing the swimmer rig. A multi-bait rig. A very popular rig in the Colne Valley at the moment, a string of 3 or 4 baits which imitates a PVA stringer. This time, however, there is a hook there waiting for them. Finally, rig number 3 is the weighted drop hook. The main difference with this rig, as opposed to any other variation of the hair rig, is that the hair and the main line both come out the back of the hook. With all other conventional hair rig types, the hair goes up the shank. Whether it be coming through the eye, off the bend or off the shank, all the hairs point this way. With this rig, points the other way. The hair comes straight out the back of the hook. Now, for counterbalancing the pop-up, the lead putty, in this case it's Christ on heavy metal, is pushed onto the hook itself, so that when the bait sits upright in the water, the hook hangs down. The hook hangs down like a claw. Now, when the carp comes along and sucks it up, the very light pop-up swirls around inside the mouth, but the heavy weighted hook always hangs down in the bottom of the mouth. And if it tries to eject it, it tends to drag like a claw along the bottom of the mouth on its way out, always catching along the floor of the mouth or just over the rim of the lips on its way out. It's a very effective rig that's been little used up to now. Finally, with safety in mind, I'll tell you about the semi-fixed leads that I use and the method that I use to attach them. Permanently fixed leads are banned on Harefield. I'm using the 4-ounce lead, a tulip bead, a piece of 2mm diameter tubing. tulip bead is pushed through the eye of the swivel. Two 2mm diameter tubing straight over the top. Now, pass your main line through the tubing and tie on the rig, and then just pull the whole lot back into the tubing. The large spigoted end of the tulip bead fits the swivel snugly, but should you have a crack off and leave a rig in the lake, this can pull out and free itself. Therefore, you're not permanently leaving a lead attached to the fish, tethered up, which could cause it damage to its mouth. Safety in mind, you've got to think of the carp's future. Well, there they are, the 3 rigs that I've been using. By putting them in the margins like that, you can get some idea of what they look like when presented correctly on the bottom. Very effective. Obviously, we've had a right result. When fishing these large gravel pits, location is obviously of primary importance, but of secondary importance is feature finding. The carp knows its world out there far better than we ever will. So we need to plumb the swim with the aid of a float, not just a lead tied on the end of the line. That won't tell us what we want to know. With today's big reels and big rods, it's now possible to plumb anything over 100 yards. And before starting a session, this should always be carried out. The method I use is to tie a float, in this case I'm using a poly ball, directly to the end of the line. Running above that, a small bead, and then your weight. The large cigar-shaped floats with the flights on the end are probably better for real long-range fishing, but as we're only fishing distances up to 90 yards, this is all we need. It's perfectly adequate. The principle behind it is that the lead takes the float out into the lake. You then draw the float back down from the surface to the lead, and then by paying out the line a foot at a time, eventually the float reaches the surface, which tells us the depth of water we're fishing in. Now, far more can be learnt than just depths. By feeling the bottom with the lead, you can tell whether you're on smooth, on gravel, on sand, and any of the different sort of features that you get in the lake. The bait runner reel is ideal for the job because it allows us just to take line off the clutch a foot at a time without messing around undoing clutches here, there and everywhere. Obviously you can do it without a bait runner, but it's a bit more time consuming. Right, let's have a cast. Just feather it down as it's about to land and take up the slack. You will need a tight line between the rod tip and the float. Now, we've taken up all the slack and we wind down the float until it reaches the lead. Release the bait runner. 1, 2, keeping an eye out for the float all the time. 3, 4 foot. Now, I know that there's a gravel bar there because I can see it because of the islands, but you won't always be able to see the gravel bars. What I've done there is cast beyond the gravel bar. I know that the gully now is 4 foot deep behind the gravel bar. So I'll pull the float in a couple of feet. Now it's running very, very smoothly there. Now that suggests to me that there's no weed there for a start. The lake is very weedy at the moment, as you'll see. So smooth sand or a hard bottom, it's an ideal place to take fish. Anyway, at the moment the weather's very hot and I would think that the fish will be up on top of the bar. So I'll come in a little bit. Now, I'm feeling the first bump of gravel. This will be the broken ground, the small pieces of stones that fall behind the bar when they're making the gravel pit. We'll see how deep it is there. Right, 1, 2, 2.5 foot. It's about 2.5 foot deep there on the start of the gravel. Now, obviously you need a fair depth of water for fish to get in them. They obviously can't swim in inches of water. This is another important thing when fishing these gravel pits. The water's got to be deep enough on top of the bars, and some of the bars aren't deep enough. Anyway, I'll come up the slope. Yep, it's bumping up the slope now. Okay. We'll see what we've got there. 1, 2. Yeah, it's about 2 foot deep on the top, which in these sunny conditions is ideal. The fish are cruising about on the top and following the bars. They follow them like roads. For my money, that'd be the place to put the bait today, right on top of the bar in 2 foot of water. You could even fish the bait popped up straight off the lead, so it's in their path. No matter which way they go along the bar, they can't miss it. Right, coming over the bar now. Right, now that tells me, by the amount of line that I've pulled in, the top of that bar is about 4 foot wide. It's an ideal place for baiting up as well. You can put baits on there. If it's a very narrow bar, it's very difficult to get baits on the top. We'll come over the top and the line falls slack. Now, it's fallen down this side of the bar into a deeper gully. Right, I'll come in a little bit more. Now, I'm feeling a couple of little bumps there. I'll just see what we've got. I don't think it's a bar. No, it's still 4 foot deep there. Just broken ground. Some small stones, but another good place to put the baits. Come in a bit more. Right, I'm coming out of the weed. It's sliding. Now I'm getting another jarring sensation on the rod. I think it's another bar. 1, 2, 2.5, almost 3 foot on top of that bar. Another good place to put the baits on these hot days. As a general rule, gullies when it's colder, tops of bars when it's warmer. Anyway, I hope that gives you an insight into feature finding on these big gravel pits. Well, just as I'm showing you the feature finding, right-hand rod's absolutely roared off. It's a fish that I've picked up on top of one of those shallow bars I was just showing you. Now, it's very weedy out there and also very snaggy. I lost a very big fish here yesterday. Right. It's kiting down behind the bar that runs off the island with the tern's nest on it. Doesn't feel a really big fish. But there were some lumps up here earlier, so I wouldn't be surprised. No, I don't think it's a big fish. It's going well though. Very well. I'd actually found a little hump on the bar. It's directly in front of me. Came up with about 18 inches of water. I've got the bait popped up off the top. About 10 inches
So it was right in front of its nose, it couldn't miss it. Little orange pop up. Oh yeah. Going now a bit under the tip. Just keep the pressure on it steady. There's a big weed bed close into me here. Get his head down in that. Don't really want it to do that. Oh, 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 he didn't like that. Stuart's just signified it's a lump by going, ooh. And that's made matters even worse now. Blimey. Oh, it's not that big. It'll do though. Oh dear. Another common. A lot of weed round its head from that weed bed close in. It's going well under the tip. Ooh, flicking off the dorsal there, I hate that. Oh, come on. All I want to do is take your picture. Oh. Haulin. Classic long commons you get in here. There's a couple of them like this. May well be same fish I caught last September. Looks very much like it. It's 29.5 then. See what it is this time. 28. What an immaculate fish. These are the ones we come here for. The jewels of Harefield. A beast. Well pleased with this one. I do love these big commons. One of my favourite methods of fishing is floater fishing. Now, over the last couple of days, the weather's really warmed up. The wind's dropped down, it's gone flat calm, and the fish are up on the top. These are ideal conditions. Can catch them in the wind as well. In fact, on some of the lakes I've fished, feed better in the wind. They like the line to be disguised in the waves. But on here, flat calm, still weather, it's perfect. This is the method I use for putting the mixers on. I normally fish 2 mixers. These are drilled with a small nut drill and then hair rigged to a size 6 Drennan Super Specialist. I use a small weighted controller which can either be fixed or running. The method I use is sort of semi-fixed, the small piece of valve rubber stopping it sliding too freely on the line. This gives you instant strike. Line is of paramount importance when floater fishing. At no time will they be more aware of line in their vision. I use £10 Drennan Specimen Plus for the main line and £10 Drennan Double Strength for the hook link. This is very fine and almost invisible when on the surface. Well, we talked about rigs, talked about tackle. Let's talk about bait. Obviously fairly important when fishing these types of waters. Stuart and I are using different baits. He'll be telling you about his. It's an advantage to fish with a few other people if you can when you're fishing these big waters. In that way you can keep the bait going in at various parts of the lake. I'm using Nash bait at the moment, the new range. There's several of us in the team, Steve Alcott, Dave Wibley, Peter Jones, and we're all using the same bait. For free offerings, the bait that we're throwing out into the lake as ground bait, we're using a mixture of the Monster Pursuit mix and the Amber Birdseed mix. This rolls quite smoothly. I'm using it in 20mm size. I've made up a variety of pop-ups. I do like pop-up fishing. 3 or 4 different flavours, 3 or 4 different colours. Made up some small orange pop-ups using the pop-up mix, again the Nash pop-up mix, with oily shellfish flavour, and some yellow ones of the same flavour. Some larger orange pop-ups using the peach oil palatant, and a range of sizes dyed brown using the oil liver palatant. I found the liver oil palatant very, very effective on this water, and the bottom baits are flavoured with the liver oil palatant.
These are the baits that I'm using. Condensed milk made by Richworth. I've been field testing them for the last 2 years for Bob Baker. I've had some outstanding results on them. Use them in conjunction with your Richworth attractor leads. I've got a funny hang up when I'm fishing. I like to find one with a smiley face, with the little colours on them.
But if you can't find one, I'm always around with one.
Thanks, Rob. The condensed milk flavour will be out on the market next year. These are the attractor leads that I use, also made by Richworth. I get the flavour that I'm using in my bait, and a syringe, and you fill the syringe with your flavour. And your capsules. Put a syringe into the capsule. Fill it up with the flavour. Put it in the little groove in the lead, which takes the capsule. Of one each side. so. You get the band and you put the band over. When that casts out, lays on the bottom and slowly releases the flavour. The capsules will dissolve in water and the flavour will slowly release out around your hook bait, making an added attractor. You can also put milk or anything like that in to get a cloud effect around your bait. I've been using these now for the last couple of years or so, and I think they've helped me with my results.
Well, I've left it till almost the end of the session before coming back to you to tell you what we've been catching, because it's been hectic. Really has. Mixed fortunes for both Stuart and I. Some very big fish lost, some big fish caught. The weather's changed completely over the last few days. Gone of the strong northwesterly winds that we were catching the fish in to begin with. The summer's here. Hot, calm, the fish on top, and feeding times have changed. It all started with 3 fish that I caught one evening. An 11¼ mirror, an 18-pound leather, and a nice almost fully scaled fish of 19 pound. These 3 fish were picked up around about the 120-yard mark, and I later changed over from my Shimano bait runners to the Daiwa 3000 SS's. The weather was really warming up, already in the 70s, and the forecast saying that it'd be in the 80s within the next day or so. With the wind dropping, it was ideal weather for floater fishing, one of my favourite forms of fishing. There's nothing quite so exciting than getting fish taking mixers, especially if you can get them close in. A very, very exciting form of fishing. I started off with commons of 15 and 18 pound. Real scrappers, especially under the rod tip. Then disaster struck. 4 very big fish were lost. One fish that I lost, well over 25 pound, right at the neck. Absolutely gutted. Lost it. Oh dear. What a shame. The fish then began to show, well out on the bars, wallowing about on top of the bars, cruising up and down. The change of rig was in order. A rig that I find very effective when the fish are in this sort of mood is to fish a pop-up straight off the lead, right on top of the bar. Right in their way, they can't miss it. And this rig proved to be absolutely devastating for both Stuart and I. Stuart taking commons of 16.5.
Well done, geezer.
It's a good idea as well.
And then a while later, a common of 17. Now this feels like a lump. Then I had an absolute beast of a fish that took me all over the lake. 29.75 pounds of real fighting machine. An absolutely devastating fight that ran me through 3 or 4 big thick weed beds. The weed going up the line like washing. In fact, the cameraman had to put the camera down at one time to help me pull the weed off the line. It was so thick I just couldn't pull the line through the rings. 29.75 pounds. And I followed it up with a common of 17.5. I then lost another very big fish which ran me through the weed beds and slipped the hook. Well, the fish has started spawning again. They spawned on May the 10th, but it's got so hot now over a period of time, they decided to have another go. Who can blame them? So we're going to leave them now, leave them in peace and let them get on with it. We've had over 30 fish, well over 30 fish. I hope you've enjoyed watching the video as much as I've enjoyed making it. We really have had spectacular action. Cheers. Another perfect fish. What can you say? Most of the fish we've been catching absolutely immaculate. And what an incredible crack. What an incredible crack.